We won the farmers by a lot in the election, in every election, all three elections, and we won by a lot, and I will never forget that, and they are foremost in our thought. And representing, I think, the farmers better than just about anybody can do is Senator Roger Marshall. Could you say a couple of words, Roger, please?
Mr. President, we're not tired of winning yet. Congratulations. What a week you've had overseas, one win after another, one big beautiful bill across the House floor this morning. You're the best closer in the game, and this is one of the greatest days of my life professionally speaking as well. And I just want to acknowledge my MAHA mom out here as well, that my wife, Lena, was a MAHA nurse and a MAHA mom and a MAHA grandma. Now, Lena, will you please stand up as well, my wife? Mr. President, as you know, I spent 25 years delivering babies most every day. We saw a huge epidemic of diabetes, of pregnancy, and this has exploded in so many different directions now. We have an epidemic in mental health in our youth, obesity rates 20%, 30%, 20% of our children on a prescription drug, 60, 70% of adults on a prescription drug. We can do better than this. And it does start with the farmer. It starts with soil health. And I just want you to know that our farmers are so committed to this as well. And so many of them are already doing great things. They're making the soil healthier. They're using less pesticides. They're doing all the right things. It's going to take a little bit more effort and time to get everybody with those practices. But the American farmer and rancher were the original environmentalists, the original conservationists, and they'll be right here working beside us, and we appreciate your support of them as well.
Thank you, Roger. Great. Thank you. So I think I'll close by just saying that something happened a week ago that was very, very important, profound, but very important in so many ways. For years, I noticed that other countries paid much less for drugs and pharmaceuticals than we did. But I don't mean 2% less or 10%, which would be good, but I don't mean 20 or 25 or 30%. I mean, sometimes we paid 10 times more, 12 times more, 13 times more than other countries, where people from our country would be seen going into Mexico and seen going into other countries, leaving on trips and bringing their drugs home because they'd get in London, they'd be able to buy a drug for 1/10 the price of what it costs in New York City. And I watched this, and I watched it during my term, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And it's a very complex system, but, you know, we're smart also, maybe much smarter than they are. And at some point, we had to figure out, and I heard it was the middleman. Nobody told me who the middleman was. Nobody knew who the middleman was. Nobody ever heard. All I heard is the middleman. I said, they've got to be the richest people in the world, whoever they are. We don't even know if there is a middleman. All I know is that the drugs were 10 times higher and sometimes more than that. And I really got into it over the last year, and I figured the whole system out. And for various and sundry reasons, the United States of America was being screwed, and we were being taken advantage of and being laughed at for years and years. And I said, it's not going to happen anymore. And I brought a great gentleman, the head of Eli Lilly, in, who's great. He really is. He's great. He's done a fantastic job, and others also of the companies. And I'd have it out with him. I had debates with him, actually, and pretty much it was a debate that was impossible to lose. You had to be a real bad debater to lose that debate, because they couldn't justify it. They tried to say, well, you know, we pay for research and development, and the United States has agreed to pay for 100%. I said, why? Why are we paying? And by the way, that wasn't even the number, because it's still way too high if you took all the research and development. But you have other countries that are a lot more vicious than us in terms of their representatives. And they'd set a price for a drug, and they'd say, tell the United States to pay for the rest. We were subsidizing the whole world. And I said, we're not going to do that anymore. We've been a laughing stock for so many years. The last 4 years, we've been a laughing stock. I said it. We're a laughing stock, and now we're the most respected, and we're the hottest country in the world. We're going to remain that way. We're going to do that with drug costs, too. And so I said, I'm going to do something that's a very unpopular thing to do with a small number of people, mainly the people that own the drug companies and others. And I'm not even blaming them. They were able to get away with it. But it was really other nations that took advantage of us, because the drug companies were under their thumb. And they would say, this is what I'm going to pay. And the European Union was right at the top of the list. Let me tell you, we're going to pay $20 for this, and we're not going to pay any more. And America would pay $240 for the same thing that they're paying $20. They said, tell America to pay for the rest. And for years, they went along aimlessly, and they did it. And I started making changes, and I'll never forget the end of my first term, which was very successful. We had the best stock market ever. We had the best economy ever of any president. We went up 88% in the stock market, as an example, and I think 116% in one of the other indices. And we're doing well, but this whole thing with the drug costs always bothered me, and I started really studying it, and it's very complicated stuff. And I said, you know what? We are paying so much more. And I demanded favored nations. We're the biggest buyer, we're the best buyer, we're the most solid buyer, we're the one that paid for all of the research and development. And I said, we're going to do something that's earth-shattering. So at the end of my first term, I was so proud because it's the first time in 28 years that any president reduced drug prices during the course of 4 years. And you know what the number was? 1/4 of 1%. Yeah. But it was down 1/4. Think of it, 1/4 of 1%, very little. Essentially, they remained the same. But I wanted to get it down.